This essay explores the gradual and complex rise of Islamic dynasties across the vast expanse of South India, a process that unfolded over several centuries. To begin, let us visualize a map of the Indian subcontinent. Observe the long curving coastlines of the west and the east, dotted with ancient ports, the great Deccan Plateau forming the heartland between them. This geography was not merely a backdrop, but a dynamic stage for historical change. The sea routes connecting these ports to the Arabian Peninsula and the Persian Gulf acted as conduits, not just for goods, but for people, ideas, and political systems. The story of how Islamic polities took root in this region is not one of a single invasion, but of intricate interactions, driven by trade, military ambition, and the forging of new cultural identities. The period from the 14th to the 17th centuries is particularly significant for understanding this transformation. The initial introduction of Islamic culture to South India was not carried by the sword, but sailed in on the monsoon winds. From as early as the 7th century, long before the rise of major Muslim empires in the north, Arab mariners were familiar figures. Persian mariners were familiar figures in the bustling ports of the Malabar coast, in the bustling ports of the Konkan coast. They were drawn by the immense wealth of the subcontinent: pepper, cardamom, luxurious textiles, precious gems, timber. These maritime merchants established small, diasporic communities in coastal towns, living alongside and interacting with the local populations, under the patronage of local rulers who valued the revenue from this lucrative overseas trade. These early Muslim communities were largely self-governing and focused on their commercial activities. The political landscape of South India underwent a seismic shift in the late 13th and early 14th centuries, driven by the expansionist ambitions of the Delhi Sultanate. Under powerful rulers like Alauddin Khalji and later Muhammad bin Tughlaq, the Sultanate's armies marched south, driven by a desire to control the legendary wealth of the Deccan and the far south. These campaigns were not initially aimed at permanent annexation, but at extracting tribute and asserting dominance over the established regional kingdoms. The Yadavas of Devagiri, the Kakatiyas of Warangal, the Hoysalas of Devara Samudra. A pivotal moment occurred in 1327, when Sultan Muhammad bin Tughlaq made the radical decision to move his imperial capital from Delhi to Devagiri, which he renamed Daulatabad, in the heart of the Deccan Plateau. This ambitious, though ultimately unsuccessful project involved the forced migration of a significant portion of Delhi's elite, administrators, soldiers, scholars, Sufi mystics, to the south. This massive demographic transfer dramatically accelerated the infusion of North Indian Islamic political and cultural norms into the Deccan. The experiment was short-lived, but the consequences were permanent and profound. Nobles, many Turkic or Afghan, held Ikuta assignments, forged local ties, and grew independent, fertile ground for rebellion. In 1347, Deccan-based emirs rose in revolt, defeated the Sultanate's forces, and declared their independence. They chose Hasan Gangu as leader, Alauddin Bahman Shah, the first independent Islamic kingdom in South India, the Bahmani Sultanate. With its founding in 1347, it emerged as the dominant power on the Deccan Plateau, a position it held for nearly 2 centuries. Early rulers secured their state against rivals and possible northern return. They built a formidable military centered on heavy cavalry, supplied by superior stock from Arabia and Persia. The Bahmani state followed the Delhi administrative template, itself steeped in Persian traditions. Persian became the language of court, literature, and administration. Influxed elites, Afakis, rubbed shoulders with established darkness, fueling factional tension. The kingdom peaked under Mahmud Gawan, a brilliant Afaki statesman. He reformed finances, restructured the army, and widened the realm from the Arabian Sea to the Bay of Bengal. He founded a renowned madrasa at Bidar, anchoring learning and prosperity. Yet, Dakhni-Afaki rivalries persisted. In 1481, Gawan's enemies engineered his execution. His death shattered central authority. Governors asserted autonomy, and the Bahmani state fractured into successors. Collapse did not bring a void, but a reconfiguration of power. 5 successor states arose. The Deccan Sultanates. Provincial strongmen became sovereigns, inheriting Bahmani institutions, Persianate courts, cavalry, and gunpowder. For a century and a half, warfare mixed with alliances and ceaseless diplomacy. Shared heritage, distinct political and cultural identities. Bijapur patronized art and architecture. Dakhni literature thrived alongside Persian. Golconda ruled diamond fields and fostered rich painting and calligraphy. Power rested on agriculture and textiles, and access to Konkan ports that linked the Islamic world. They exported textiles, spices, diamonds, and imported horses, metals, and luxuries. Customs and taxes filled treasuries, funding armies and cities. Capitals expanded with monumental mosques, palaces, gardens, hospitals, and bazaars. The Portuguese disrupted sea lanes, seizing Goa and imposing Cartezes. But trade adapted via land routes and other harbors. A new maritime rival had arrived. The Deccan learned to contend with power at sea. The most visible legacy is a spectacular corpus of art and architecture. Imported styles fused with indigenous techniques and aesthetics. These structures signaled authority, piety, and cultural sophistication. Gulbarga's Jami Masjid, 1367, is unique for its vast roofed prayer hall of intersecting arches and small domes. Bidar's brilliant tiles reflect Persian and Central Asian influence. Bijapur's Golcondas and Ibrahim Rauza showcase colossal vision and delicate craft. In Golconda, Hyderabad, the Charminar and Mecca Masjid defined an Eastern Deccan idiom. Painting blended Persian elegance with local color, and even subtle European touches via trade. Manuscripts like the Nujum-ul-Ulum reveal soaring intellectual imagination. For over 2 centuries, Bahmanis and successors faced the mighty Vijayanagara Empire across shifting frontiers. The Raichur Doab became the contested heart of repeated campaigns. War was frequent, but punctuated by peace, diplomacy, and exchange in methods and personnel. Alliances were pragmatic, not purely sectarian. In 1565, 4 sultanates united at Talikota, delivering a decisive defeat that redrew the political map. The Deccan Sultanates were deeply rooted South Indian powers that forged a unique Dakhni civilization. Their legacy lives in stone, letters, and living communities. Not merely kings and battles, but a rich composite culture integral to South Indian identity.